Hi everyone, my name is Ali Cram, and this is my presentation on early learning and culture for EDU 4354 cross-cultural competencies. The main question this assignment asks is what strategies are necessary to make early learning environments more accepting and sensitive to different cultures. Throughout this presentation, I hope to highlight some key issues that currently impact the early learning community and how they relate to culture, as well as provide examples of strategies that can create better learning environments for the future. The main purpose of this assignment is to use the knowledge accumulated throughout this course and apply it to scenarios I may encounter in the future or hope to implement in the future to create a better learning environment. To begin, I'd like to give a little bit of background about myself. As I previously stated, my name is Ali. I'm currently a third-year bridging student in the Bachelor of Early Learning and Community Development program at Algonquin College. I'm also a registered early childhood educator. I'm currently working as an RECE in a toddler program at a local Ottawa child care center part-time. I'm still not quite sure what my plans are for the future, but I'm excited to experience some different kinds of interactions with children and their families through upcoming placements. And I'm eager to start working in the early learning and community development field wherever it is that I may end up. The first step in creating strategies to make early learning environments more accepting and sensitive to different cultures is to identify the issues. Three examples of some cross-cultural issues that I have identified are lack of proper education or knowledge, biases or stereotypes, and lack of support from either the public, government, or communities. The first issue is that there is lack of proper education or knowledge or how to be more culturally aware and accepting within the early learning community. This is a problem because it can cause issues within the interactions between educator and child or their families. If the educator is not properly informed of any specific cultural needs of the family, it can create situations that are insensitive and can create some tension. It is important to be culturally competent in this field as we interact with all families within a community. A strategy that I would implement to ensure that the early learning environment is more accepting and sensitive to different cultures would be to have mandatory cultural awareness training for new and existing employees. By having this training as a requirement for working at a certain organization, it can help ensure that all employees have a basic understanding of why it's important to be culturally inclusive and how to best interact with children and families of different cultures. I've included some links to some cultural awareness training websites that could be used, such as Indigenous Awareness Canada and Sensitivity Training Canada. The second issue of biases or stereotypes is also considered an issue because it can once again affect the interactions with different children and families. If a person is biased towards a certain culture or believes in some negative stereotypes, the relationships between educator and child or educator and community can be strained and harmful. Some strategies that can help combat bias and stereotypes are to leave any personal biases you have at the door. Whether it be because of your upbringing or because you're not educated on something enough, your personal beliefs about stereotypes and biases towards certain cultures need to be left at the door before you interact with children and their families. You can also use your free time to educate yourself more on how harmful having prejudice and bias is at work and to leave it out of work. Another strategy to help the early learning environment be more culturally accepting would be implementing resources into the center, such as books, music, or toys from various cultures to encourage children and their families to explore different cultures and become more accepting of them. The third issue, lack of support, is a problem because there are not enough places within each community that are accepting and open to helping families from all cultures. There needs to be more resources available that are inclusive to all, not just the majority. Some strategies that I would implement would be to host guest speakers, such as elders of a certain culture or activists, to speak to the children, their families, and even open it up to the general public to help share their stories and their culture within the community. I would also encourage families and community members to spread the word and share their culture with others in the center and the local community through hosting family barbecues or other events with the center. Finally, there are also grants from the government that businesses and centers can apply for that encourage them to be inclusive of all cultures and help inform others of different traditions and cultural aspects, such as the Canadian Cultural Investment Fund and the Building Communities Through Arts and Heritage Grant. Throughout this presentation, I've discussed some strategies to help combat some key issues that impact early learning environments and their mission to ensure that they are inclusive to all cultures and families. Lack of education or knowledge, bias or stereotypes, and lack of support are some of the bigger issues that needed to be addressed. To tie everything together, there are still some underlying issues in the early learning and community development field that relate to the topic of cultural acceptance. However, with the strategy ideas discussed throughout this presentation, I think that a positive change can be seen in early learning environments within communities and that the future looks a lot brighter. On this slide, I've included some references that I used. That is the end of my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed.